The agenda for today is the overview of the context we're talking about of the 3D Experience platform. We will discuss things like social collaboration, which is actually the first level of collaboration in sharing information, sharing data, sharing files with other stakeholders. Then we move on to 3D Experience enterprise collaboration, where we can share the complete chain of processes and data with data continuity, all from the early beginnings of a product development to the final stages in production or even services. We will then discuss 3D Experience in a starting foundation for the small and medium businesses, and how we as Kionis also look at that, and what you will see when you do the first start. We'll show you a live demo, as said, on the various roles and the various functionalities that are available. Then we will focus on how we as Kionis implement this in customers, how we do a quick start, what our offering is in there to give you a smooth and a limited startup for a foundation from which you can grow into a complete PLM system if you want to in phased steps. And on the end, we have a conclusion and some questions and answers. The experience, context and overview. Well, in this period of time, we are all getting used to working from home, doing remote connections to all the systems we have, and sharing information over WebEx and over GoToMeeting or GoToWebinars today. And we're using all sorts of systems to connect to each other and to share data. Well, a 3D Experience platform is a cloud platform which is ideal for sharing all sorts of information, from your product development to team meeting information, to sharing ideas, to discussing communities, and so on. And the connection is from wherever you are, connected to a central system. And in this case, we talk about cloud, but when it's on premise, you can also access this from remote on a very secure way. Everything is encrypted over secure connections. So there's a lot of detailed information on that subject if you want to have that. We talk about enterprise connection, meaning we can share not only data or files, we can also share the complete processes and status of information. We talk about data continuity, meaning that all the data is only once available. There's no copies. It's a single source of truth in a central system where you can connect to all your projects and enterprise information. And of course, collaboration, meaning that we can collaborate, we can share data, we can define the status of data, we can inform each other about data or about processes and about projects, and the status on projects, the status of tasks in projects, or the status of the product itself and the maturity of the development. And of course, for all stakeholders, meaning we don't only collaborate within the company or within the location, but between locations, between enterprise, in the complete enterprise, or even with other stakeholders like customers or suppliers. If we look at that in the collaboration, connecting to communities, it means that we have a lot of stakeholders in this community talking about customers, technical communities, business communities, supplier communities, and we share information from specifications until production or services. And all in this complete enterprise field, we can share on the data and on the processes. Cross-functional on and all on the same platform. That's the nice thing about this. Of course, there's a lot of information created by various tools we use today. And the idea about this platform is that we share and use all those functionalities from the portfolio from Dassault Systems in one platform. This gives us the opportunity to share over various departments, to share the various different processes, even if it's from a business point of view, from a technical point of view, from a social point of view, and we can access all the same data. And apart from functional access, we also have setups that are organized in industry definitions, meaning that for auto or for aero or for industry equipment or for consumer goods, we have predefined processes, predefined environments where we can align with your day-to-day business to make this a very smooth transition from your current process into the platform process. And cloud, why not? As said, we deliver this platform from cloud and from on-premise. On-premise, it means it's on your own hardware, somewhere in a data center, or even if you want to, it can be hosted by Kionis and managed by Kionis, but it is also available on cloud. On cloud, you don't have to take care of the local system. It's managed by Dassault. It's 100% out of the box, including all the best practices. It's easy to install, easy to deploy. You don't have to do any installation on servers, not take care of any infrastructural services like maintenance on your hardware or applications. So it's a fast delivery. We can you will receive an email address or a login, and from that login you can set up your system for your company and appoint users and have it up and running in a very short period. You can align it with your company strategy. There's some setup and configuration to be done to align it with your current processes. It's available 24/7. You don't have to take care of the availability of the system. It's all managed for you. There's no IT management. You're free from versions and upgrades and evolutions of the software. This will be done automatically twice a year, once or twice a year release. In between, maybe some functional updates or some fixed updates. But it's all managed centrally, and you don't have to take care about this. And you get in there all the functionality for your collaboration, your co-design, business continuity from home or from everywhere you are in the world. And there is a small cloud eligibility, meaning that we can test your environment for the access to the platform if it's the bandwidth is okay and there's no problems with latency and so on. So you can test if you have multiple locations worldwide to access to the cloud. We can help you in making that the best solution. If you have any worries about the cloud or on security of data, we have a lot of information on the security within the system. Dassault Systems is, of course, the application owner. They have the security in place and the quality standards. The provider for Europe, Outscale on the cloud. They host the infrastructure, and of course the seat experience itself, which is also highly secured. Said everything is encrypted, and there's a very good personal and organization mechanism to give everybody the right access to the platform. So we talk about cloud and we talk about a platform, meaning that we are moving from siloed applications, as we all know, like Katja and maybe Similia with Abacus or SolidWorks or even Office applications, and we move from connecting this on a file-based situation to a real connection in a data continuity platform, from electronic static to digitally connected. And that means that we move from static files to live data, and everybody looking at the same information. There are no copies, one single source of the truth. And of course, this platform is delivering a lot of services. This is all included in the system. So you know, in the top you see 3D passport. This is your identification. There is 3D drive. This is a very low-level way of sharing files with other stakeholders. We talk about this later. There's 3D Swim. This is a social media kind of solution within the platform to share ideas, to share innovation, and to discuss about this before you do any development. There's a lot of things in here. In the middle, you see 3D Play. This is visualizing data in 3D with some tools to get a very good idea about this. You will see this also in the demo later on. 3D dashboard, it's like a business solution to give you dashboards with all sorts of information that is live about your status of your projects, about the status of open tasks, or about change processes, about all sorts of information, even from outside if you want. And we have, of course, a very high-level search possibility for full text searching within the platform to find the right information for your development. If we look in the system, there's a lot of roles that you can adapt. Roles is more or less connected to licenses, and each of those roles is assigned to a user. There can be more roles assigned to one user if you want. Each of those roles has a number of applications, apps as we call them in the system, and these apps result in starting an application on your data where you can do either Katja or Inovia or all sorts of functionalities on your process and data. We will see this in the demonstration later on how this looks. If we look at the first level of collaboration, we talk about 3D Swim for social collaboration and 3D Drive for sharing data. This is the first level, meaning the very limited first level of interest into the platform gives you the opportunity to do social collaboration. This means you have a sort of dashboard where you can share ideas, you can share information, you can talk to people, you can discuss with people, and funnel ideas into innovation. This is the user interface. It gives you communities. It gives you a 3D play to look in 3D to your product. You can chat with other people and share information. 3D Drive is also connected to that. This is a sort of like a cloud hard drive, like you have with Google Drive or with Dropbox. This is then the 3D Drive. Gives you a very secure way of storing data in the platform on the cloud and share it with people that you want to share it with. And you have the tools to view the data, to use 3D Play for 3D viewing, and you have some tools on analyzing this information, making sections, and so on. And it's a very simple way to start sharing information in a platform. And synchronize this, of course, with your local computer. The next level is enterprise collaboration. This means that we really make a start with entering the world of PLM or PDM, whatever you want to call it. And here we go to a way of getting data structured in a central database and using all sorts of collaborations on top of that. So there's a lot of data files which are non-CAD, or even we have CAD data from all sorts of applications, not only the Dassault applications like Katja or SolidWorks, but also third-party XCAD, as we call it, for multi-CAD implementation. And we can put all this data into the central platform and use the processes on top of that. We have the collaborative tasks where we can define the status of data. We have some routes where we can define how a product can be validated, can be released, checked and released for production, all on top of all these types of data. And if we want, we can use, sorry, click here. In the collaboration, we have all sorts of functionalities we can use, like team collaboration, collaborative tasks and workflows, where we can define how a product is maturing and is being freezed for checking and released for going into production. We can have here you see this kind of issue management, where you can define issues. If you have an issue with a product, you can define it, and you can trace and track all the information concerning that issue. And we have product collaboration, meaning program and project management, where we can define the program with phases and gates and project tasks. And we can also do the product collaboration, meaning change management process, using if we want to change requests, change orders, and change actions to have changes done on your development. If you look at project planning, even using templates like APQP, which is highly used in automotive and starting to be used in aero, for project management, where you can see Gantt diagrams for your project collaboration with using your resources and timing in your project. The gates for project managers, where you are in the project, with all the gates in between major steps in your project. Dispatch all tasks to team members, where they can see what the task means, what they need to do. And the nice thing about this is that all the information that they need in that task is connected to the task. So the data they need to handle during the task is already connected to the task. So they don't have to search for the information. It's all integrated. When we look at the domains, and for SME, this is a typical process or a definition of a company with all sorts of department functionalities and processes, each of them creating data and interconnecting with each other if needed. Within a PLM system, we try to streamline this, put this all in the single platform. We start small with a foundation, what we call ready for cloud, where we take the initial steps to put this in a collaborative platform. We put on top some workflow and activity management. We take care about CAD data and document management. And this is the first start. This will give you up and running on managing your data and your initial processes. And eventually, you could grow this into more functionality on top, meaning bill of material management, your change management, requirement management if you want to. There are a number of things you can put on top to grow this into a more complete PLM systems. And if you go down the road, there are things like variant management in configuration management on CM2, integration with your ERP system, systems engineering, if you look multidisciplinary for electronics and hardware integration and software integration, you can use that in the same platform, managing all this data, and grow this for complete coverage of all your functionality that you need going forward to manufacturing, like your production planning, manufacturing execution plan, your plant design, virtual twin kind of solutions. And it's all connected in one system. Well, the first step for this, as we call, is what you would need in a first solution based on 3D experience is that you need some document management, you need some CAD document management, you like to have some issue management. If you need some changes, you can, instead of using the formal change management process, you could use issue management as a first step. You can have some workflows and tasks to be sure that changes are being managed and controlled and are traceable. And you can have a definition on your organization where you can define the various departments, how they cooperate, what they can do, what people can do for functions. Can they release data or only store data and update data? And so on. This is what we call the foundation. Here you see some screenshots of what we can cover in that. So we have the collaborative platform, we have data access and traceability for all. We have multi-CAD where we can have CATIA V5 or NX. We can have workflows on managing the maturity of your data. And it's very intuitive to use. Some of the applications are fully web-based and some use the local clients like CATIA or NX or the clients for CATIA V6 or similar. It's not only CAD based, we can also take care about all sorts of document management. Here on the right bottom, you see integrations with the Office applications for Word and Excel and PowerPoint, even connecting to the platform from that application to store your data centrally, find it using full text search, and keeping trace of the maturity of your files or of your documents. Here on the left, the full text search where you can use multi-criteria to put filters on to find the right information in the right data or the right on the right level, the right release of the data. And if we look to design, as said, it's multi-CAD. So there's integrations with CATIA V5, which we call multi-CAD because in the platform is CATIA V6 or 3D Experience CATIA. SolidWorks, your connection to NX, Creo, Inventor, and more to come. And the model-based solution can be used on top of all this data. So if you want to go to full 3D using model-based definition, instead of using drawings, have all the information, including 3D annotations, you can put it on top of all this data. And it's fully data-driven and not file-based anymore. Going down the road, engineering bone management, where we have the right solution to come from your definition of your product, being a CAD assembly or being a full engineering bill of material, managing the bill of material in going forward to a manufacturing bill of material, going to ERP, managing configurations on top, and variants and so on. So the full management of everything that has to do with your product bill of material. If we look at program and project management options that we can put on top of that foundation, as we said, you see here the Gantt diagram. On top, you see the project manager view on gates, from going from one to another gate, with nice dashboards to look at the status and the maturity of the project, and even some financials if you want to, and on the bottom some risk management to see what the risk is within your project. And we handle resources, of course, we handle requirements, we handle all sorts of documents, and it's a complete governance overall, and not only one project, but there's a multiple view over multiple projects. So if you look at resources, you can see the load on a resource through the various projects he's connected to. If we look in the standard platform, in the foundation on which roles are to be used. These are the basic roles in the platform that we use, like contributor, which is the standard license used to get into the platform and have the basic functionality. We can put somebody as a contributor to a project, as a project manager to define projects or being a member of a project. We can have additional functionality to handle files from SolidWorks or the other systems for which we need a role to be able to do that. Of course, there's a PLM administrator to manage and administer the system. And if you handle libraries with standard parts and so on, we have something like a classification manager. This is just an overview of some of the roles available. There are 250 roles, but we have 5 here now. See, there's a live demo I will share with you. Here it is. In this, we will go over a review of the initial functionalities in the system. You can log into the system. And yes, we choose a language. We connect to the system to a specific project. And with some of the, in this user interface on the left top, you see quadrants where we can connect to the various applications. If you select a quadrant, you see the roles that are in there. This user has a lot of roles. Normally you have 1 or 2 or maybe 3. Connected to those roles, you see the applications you can use, and application are called apps, of course. And here's a dashboard. On this dashboard, you can share all sort of information that you want to see when you log in. Like here, looking at the status of COVID at the moment, it's just a public website you have connected to, or you have some documents you want to see and you want to keep trace on. Or you can even do some markup in this document, or any data here you can enrich with remarks on this that's shared in the system. Here's a 3D play functionality where you can have a look at the product. There's some nice functionalities. This is all done from a web browser. You can have a look at the insides of a product using this kind of exploded view. This is a product with 600 or 700 parts, I believe, so it's quite large. It's not the full product, but it's quite large, and you see how it is handled in just a normal web interface. You can make sections if you want to. Have a look inside and look at some of the details of the data. You can do some measurement on size, length, whatever you want to measure. And it's quite fluid in how to handle this interface. We have some tabs. If you log in and you are a project manager, you do the project management. Here you see an overview. We come from the standard dashboard where you can define the widget what you want to see. This is my project. So here you see the project you're project manager from, and you can see the status of that. If you look in a specific project, you can look into the Gantt diagram of this project. You see the status, where you are on the various steps and tasks that are defined here. You can define gates and phases and milestones. It's like a Microsoft project, but I'm fully integrated in the system. And as said, each task has a connection to the data that needs to be handled. Here you see the project contributor. This means this is somebody that's part of a project. He has been assigned some tasks. You can look at the data that is assigned to him. You can define, see the document, of course, and have a look at it. This is a PDF. define the life cycle, meaning the maturity of the data. You see the graph, it's not in work. He wants to put it into frozen, meaning that somebody else can check it. And if okay, then we can release it based on his access rights. If you look at review processes, you can also define that it's not just a simple review, but there is a more complex review using this workflow where more people have a say about this data before it's being released. And like quality manager or manufacturing manager or whatever needs to say about this data before release. And of course, there is and the next phase is for the designer. Here in the designer environment, you still are in the web browser. On the left, you see the product structure. On the right, you see the 3D player with the 3D data in there. You can look at that. You see what the revision of the data is. You can define new revisions. You can do some measurement here, define what you need to do before you start opening this in Gotcha to make the change. Some measurement being done. And look at the size of this. Of course, this measurement is done on graphic data. That gives you an idea about size. And all derived documents like drawings can be done, can be annotated. You can define some text. You can make some nice annotations here. Using the colors to get attention to the annotation. And this is the product structure. You see all the individual parts, how they are interlinked with each other. Assembly and the drawings, parents and childs from the structure. If you're a product architect, you want to work with product structures. You define the structure of a product with all the individual parts. You don't put the content in, but you define the structure, the assemblies, sub-assemblies, all the parts, buy parts, make parts, and so on. You define documents, you define input information, requirements, you connect it to the various parts. If you are a project manager, you give out tasks. You see tasks for defining, checking data, releasing data, reviewing data. There's of course the viewer is all drag and drop. It's very easy. This is a 2D document. You can have a look at, make some annotations if you want to finish your task. And this will be reported back to the project manager. You go into change management. There's a dashboard where you can see what all the change actions are that are connected to you. If you take a change action to do the update for that bracket of that seat, you can see what the status of the information is, what is the task. You can look at referentials, context, dependencies. It's a full traceability of all the change management. And if we go to engineering release, we look at the product structure from an EBOM point of view, engineering bill of material. You can enrich that and export this to be used in ERP or in manufacturing systems. For now, this is based on the standard foundation, meaning that we have an export functionality to export this or a CSV file or whatever. If you are on premise and you want to have a connection to your ERP system, that's also an option, but not for cloud at this moment. And here you see an export, and then you get this file, which you can use to integrate this into your ERP system on a manual way. And here you see some issue management on issues that have been recognized. You can look at that issue, the data is connected to that issue, so you can directly go into the data and see what it is. You don't have to look find it. It's all connected and integrated. So if we look at design collaboration, so that was the foundation. Now we will show you some examples on working with the platform from a collaboration point of view. If you need to work in Katja V5 or in Katja V6 or in SolidWorks, we give some examples. This is an example from Katja V5, where we find the data using the full text search. We find the product. We say, okay, show it in the player. We can have a look at what the data is, what the issue is, and on the bottom you see the change actions we need to do. We start our Katja V5 to load the data into Katja V5, change the data over there, and bring it back into the system. So you're fully connected. You see on top also the menu, 3D experience. So this is fully connected to the platform. Only you use Katja V5 as the editor for the 3D. So this is typical Katja V5. If you want to look for search for standard parts to enter input a part into this structure, you can search in the 3D Experience platform. You can look in the standard libraries, the parts libraries. You find the products of your liking, and then you can enter it into the Katja V5. Like this pivot we need for this solution to add it to the structure. You can have a look at it, integrate it into the assembly, and put it back into the system. So that's the Katja V5 example. This is a similar example, but then we use 3D Experience Katja. This is, in other words, Katja V6, meaning this is the fully integrated Katja. The user interface is the same as what we see in the browser. There's no difference. Only there's what we call a thick client. So there's some software installation on your local workstation or laptop, but the user interface is the same. You don't really feel the difference between working in Katja versus working in the browser. Here we see an Explorer window, meaning that we search data, we can have a look at it in a very easy and light way to identify the information we need, like this electric motor. And if you want to work on that, we can open it in Katja, 3D Experience Katja. We will get an authoring window in which we can change the data, and then we see on the left the product structure or the CAD structure as we know it also from Katja V5. So similar. Here we see an example using SolidWorks. Here we look from the browser into the data structure. On the right, we see this is a 3D play with the information. We can have a look at that. On the left, you see that the parts are all in SolidWorks as file format. We can work on the structure to work with that. We can do all the management of the maturity of the data in here to say things need to be checked, need to be released. Here you see it's quite extensive assembly. But this is about the integration with some examples. And here we finish with design review. This is also done from the web browser. You don't need any thick application for this. You load data into the 3D play. You can do some markups in your review where you say, I have some comments I want to add. I need to do some measurement, and I want to share an image from this. So you can make an image like a snapshot using that camera symbol, and then you get a slide with this view. You can make some annotations in here, connect it with a leader, put your text in, and create another snapshot. And these snapshots can be shared with the designer or the project manager to make decisions. measurement, thickness. Measure like the diameter. It's 3 points for this. We use graphic data to analyze this. We store this, and then we make a snapshot. So on the left, you see all these snapshots where you can jump to see the various views that are being defined by the reviewer. Make a section, product, to have some insight view, and create another snapshot. So this was a very quick overview of the demonstration of the various subjects that we have in the platform. So finalizing, I need to check my time. As Kionis and Zenit, we have a specific way of bringing it, implementing this to our customers. As said, start small and start now, meaning we start with this foundation that I showed you. On top, you can put some options if you want to and move it into smart PLM, fully covering a certain industry, and eventually ending up with a complete business platform. And how do we do this? We call this process of doing this, we call that ready for cloud. So we need to onboard you onto the cloud, align it with your way of working, and deploy it. And of course, there are some needs on your side. If you look at the left, assessing the business value, look at what you need, what's the onboarding, configuring and checking installation and so on, discovering how does it work, demonstrate, to validate the visibility and what needs to be deployed and how do we need to deploy it, and then deploy it. So we have a solution for that in 4 steps, where we work on general presentations and awareness to show you what's available and what we should do, which parts should be included in that first step. We do some training for key users so that they can be involved in discussions on how to implement, how to configure and set up the system. We have proof of concept deployment, including training, coaching, and implementation for a first validation of what we set up. And then there's the deployment of the platform into production. And this is normally these processes take a long time. We have a predefined process that within 3 months we could have you up and running using these steps. And in the last step, there is also, as you see on the right, the license acquisition, where you buy your licenses and you start using the cloud. During validation, of course, you will need access to the system too, but I'll come back on that on the next slide. So the phases are actually defined in these 4 steps. Discover what's available, what can we use, how do we collaborate on the cloud with our processes and our data and our products. Define the roadmap for the first step and the follow-on steps. And in the ready for cloud, there's a lot of elements in there, as you see on the bottom, where you can define, do I do document management? Do I do CAD document management? Do I do product management? Yes or no? Or put it in the next phase, BOM management, and so on. So there's a lot of elements that we can include or exclude from these phases. So for you to be ready and make the first move into cloud. During this evaluation phase, sorry about some French words, but there is an option for you to get access to the platform so that you pay only for the base license to just have access to cloud. It's for 3 months, so this can be used during this evaluation period where you have only for this cost all additional rows you can put on top for free. to evaluate what roles could be needed. We can review them, we can train you on that and see if this is feasible for this phase or the next phase. And after the 3 months, we define a deployment with the purchase of the right roles and the right licenses for your company. And so it's offering this with 10 users per customer maximum to be part of this implementation process. Well, then we finish with question and answers. Let me check if there are any questions now. If there's any questions later on, please send them to me. You have my email address here, and we can answer them over email. If you want us to replay this webinar, you will receive a link from us with a replay of this webinar. If you want us to show it to your organization or to a wider group of people in your organization, please let me know. We can do a one-to-one meeting remotely to discuss and to share this information with you. Then for finalizing, I don't see any questions at this moment. I would like to remind you that we have 3 follow-on webinars next week on the May 6th. That's all about Catch V5 in combination with cloud. How do you collaborate with your current tool using cloud? So everybody can sit at home and work, collaborate within one product in one version of the truth on your development of products. And the week after, we focus on project management. It's on May 13, also at 10 o'clock, all about project management within the platform. And then the last one is about design and engineering on May 20, focusing on design and engineering. There we talk also about product structures, bill of material, change management process, mainly also how to work with change actions or in combination with change requests and change orders. So I hope you like this webinar. Leave any comments if you want and share them with us. And hope to see you in the follow-on webinars. And thank you for your attention.